So this quote, it paints a picture, right? A picture of a story we think we all know. It's the Spanish Reconquista, an epic 800-year heroic crusade, a clear-cut battle where Christian knights took back their homeland and forged a nation in the fires of a holy war. It's a powerful story, and a simple one.
And that entire story, well, it seems to crescendo right here, in this one single massive year. 1492 is held up as the grand finale, the victory lap of this whole struggle. But is that simple story the whole story? Not even close. The real story is way more complex, and it has cast this incredibly long and surprising shadow over our modern world.
So in this explainer, we're going to pull back the curtain on that heroic myth. We're going to look at how it all went down, because the way it happened centuries ago created these ripple effects, consequences that are literally still shaping Spain's economy, its culture, everything, right into the 21st century.
Okay, so to really get the myth, you have to go back to where it was born. And that takes us to the absolutely monumental year of 1492. For the Spanish monarchy, this wasn't just another year. They called it their annus mirabilis, their miraculous year.
Think about it. 3 absolutely earth-shattering events all happening within months of each other. First, Granada, the very last Muslim stronghold in Iberia falls. Then, boom, the Alhambra decree kicks out Spain's entire Jewish population. And, at the same time, they're signing a deal with some guy named Christopher Columbus. These weren't just small moves. They were creating the foundation myth of a unified, totally Catholic Spain, ready to become the world's first global superpower.
But was it really that simple? Was it really one unified Team Christian Spain fighting one single enemy for 800 years straight? Well, the minute you start digging into the actual history, that whole heroic story, it just starts to fall apart.
You see, this whole idea of the Reconquista as this one long continuous war is what historians call a historiographical construction. But what does that really mean? It just means it's a neat and tidy label that we slapped on top of a super messy reality way later. The actual people living back then, they would have had no idea they were part of some grand 800-year plan.
The truth? Oh, it was so much messier. This was never a clean Spain versus Islam fight. Not at all. It was more like a centuries-long chaotic scramble for power. You had Christian kingdoms like Leon and Castile fighting each other all the time. And get this, alliances were constantly crossing religious lines. A Christian lord would team up with a Muslim emir to take out another Christian lord. It was all about power and territory. The idea of one single Spain, it wouldn't even exist for centuries.
So if it wasn't one big holy war, what the heck was it? Well, it turns out the key to understanding its real lasting impact isn't that it happened, it's how it happened. And even more to the point, how fast. And this, right here, is where some really cool economic analysis just flips the whole script on this history.
So, economists looking at this period came up with this brilliant new way to measure it. They called it the rate of reconquest. Basically, it's all about speed. Was the Christian frontier moving south slowly, bit by bit, or was it a total lightning-fast land grab? And it turns out that one single factor, the speed of the conquest, changed everything. What you end up with are 2 totally different ways of doing things. For the first few hundred years, the reconquest was slow. It was methodical. As land was taken, individual settlers would move in, farm it, and you got a more balanced, kind of more equal society. But then, after the year 1200, everything hits the accelerator. Huge areas were conquered so fast that there was no way to populate them with small farmers. So what did the crown do? They just handed out massive chunks of land, these latifundios, to nobles and military orders. And just like that, you concentrate all the power and all the wealth in the hands of a tiny few.
And you can literally pinpoint the moment it all changed. 1212, the Battle of Las Navas de Tolosa. This was the big one. After the Christian forces won, the Almohad Caliphate in the south just shattered. Suddenly, the floodgates were wide open. And in just a couple of decades, Christian armies just swallowed up massive parts of southern Spain, and that rapid reconquest model went into overdrive.
Okay, so, a medieval battle strategy? Who cares, right? Why are we even talking about this? Well, here's the crazy part. This division, this split in strategy from 800 years ago carved an economic scar right across Spain that is so deep you can still see it on a map today. Just let that sink in for a second. Could the way a town was conquered back in the 1200s actually decide how much money people living there have in their pockets today, in the 21st century? It sounds insane, but the data is just stunningly clear. The answer is yes.
The findings are just, well, staggering. Economists found this super strong connection. The faster a place was conquered back then, the poorer it tends to be today. The places that were taken over slowly, where land was spread out more, they're generally richer now. And this isn't just a coincidence. This connection holds up even when you account for all sorts of other things, like how far south it is, the weather, or even where the old Roman roads were.
So why? There's this idea in economics called path dependence. Think of it like this. History creates a path, and once you're on it, it's really, really hard to get off. The rapid conquest basically built a path of extreme inequality. You had this small group of landowners who had zero reason to invest in stuff like schools for everyone or new technologies. Why would they? That might shake up their power. And that system just got baked in, generation after generation, leaving this legacy of economic inequality that you can still feel today.
But you know, this story isn't just about economics. It's not just numbers on a chart. Because while the king and queen were trying to create this perfectly pure Catholic kingdom, the reality for people on the ground, well, it was a whole lot more mixed, more complex, and honestly, way more interesting.
And the key to unlocking this cultural side of the story is this one word, mudehar. It comes from an Arabic word that means something like tamed or allowed to remain. It refers to the Muslims who stayed in their homes after the Christians took over. And their incredible skills led to this amazing blend, this fusion of Islamic and Christian styles that created something totally new, something uniquely Spanish.
And this influence, it goes so much deeper than just pretty buildings. I mean, think about the food we associate with Spain. Rice, saffron, sugarcane, all introduced during this time. Think about technology, like the amazing irrigation systems that made the dry land bloom, or even how to make paper. And the language, thousands of Spanish words, from algebra to guitarra, come straight from Arabic. So even though the official policy was to kick people out, the culture, the science, the knowledge of Al-Andalus was already woven so deeply into the fabric of the land that you just couldn't separate it anymore. It was Spain. There's this amazing quote from a writer back in 1599, Mateo Alemán. He captured it just perfectly. He talked about how even the way they pronounced certain letters was something the Arabs had left behind, like bits and pieces left in the house after a neighbor moves away. It's such a beautiful way to put it, right? This wasn't a clean break. It was this deep, lingering inheritance.
So, in the end, the Reconquista, it just wasn't a simple conquest. It was a messy, complicated, and totally profound remaking of an entire civilization. It left behind this double-edged legacy. You've got this baked-in economic inequality, for sure, but on the other hand, you have this incredibly rich, blended, hybrid culture. It's a story that is so much more interesting than that simple hero myth we started with, isn't it?
And that kind of leaves us with one last thing to think about, doesn't it? How much of our own world today, the economic gaps in our neighborhoods, the very core of our cultures, is being shaped by these long, complicated histories that we've just, well, forgotten, or worse, that we've smoothed over into simple, easy myths?